Hey guys, Michael Ketchen here with another episode of the Michael Ketchen Show, and I'm joined by Luke Frizzell. Did I get it right?
That's right.
I nailed it. All right, I was a little nervous. I got hooked up with Luke through a real good buddy of mine. You guys have all seen on the show in the past, Nico Rowe. Luke is also, I just found out, really close to another buddy of mine, Brad. So shout out to Brad Elder. And you connected with my guy, Jeff Gaines. So this was just all of us just coming together in this ethos. And I got to be honest, man, I'm super impressed. You make the transition from the military right into real estate with a focus on assisted living. And I just love seeing operators do their thing. So why don't you kick it off, give us a little 30-second background, and then we'll get right into kind of what you guys are cooking with today, because it's very exciting.
Yeah, man. I'm an Oklahoma boy. I was born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. All I cared about in high school was sports, and I wanted to take that to my professional world. And so I joined the SEAL teams. I figured I was decent at swimming, so maybe I could
just
try.
Throw you in the water and see what happens.
Throw me in the water, see what happens. But I love a challenge, and that definitely drew me to the SEAL teams, and was the best decision I ever made as far as professionally having that experience. I just got out after about 11 years in the SEAL teams. And a lot of the lessons that you learn in the SEAL teams can translate really well to business if you can make that switch in your mind from kind of this specialist and this never quit attitude and translate it with the mission planning, with the outside the box thinking. You can turn that on into the business world. That's what I did. And I actually kind of got into that a little bit before I got out. Got some partners, and we are touching in the residential assisted living space now. My wife and I live in Virginia Beach. We just had our fourth child, so I'm low on sleep right now, but I'm confident about how this is going to go, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, that's super exciting. And I think you hit something that doesn't get talked about enough there. I find, especially with the teams guys, it's very interesting. It goes one of two ways. There's those guys that still have that internal entrepreneur that can overcome the fact that it's grinded out of you through intense training. And when you can overcome it, you have this super unique skill set that you know how to problem solve regardless of the situations, but you also have that fire in the belly, that ingenuity, that ability to pivot and not get overwhelmed and delegate to elevate and all the things that make an entrepreneur work, which is, I mean, I'm so glad you're in the assisted living space. I think it's such a great asset. An amazing opportunity in today's economy, but a lot of people are doing it wrong, in my opinion. You seem to be one of the guys doing it right. You got kind of a unique model. Take us through that journey and how you landed on assisted living, and then we'll get into kind of where you guys are cooking with today.
Yeah, man, and I'll hit on something you said. There is a high degree of accountability, a lot of peer pressure on the SEAL teams to perform. So surrounding yourself with great people. I've always said I'm not a super disciplined person, but I have surrounded myself with people who are pushing me to be better, which is a forcing mechanism to be disciplined. And that's one thing that is not lacking in the SEAL teams that I'm very thankful for. So now I got to search for that outside the SEAL teams, right? I can't just, I got to develop my own self-discipline, but I also have to surround myself and force myself to be always pushing the needle. As a SEAL, you do learn these lessons in mission planning and contingency planning, being cool and calm under pressure. And I had this, the last job I worked in the SEAL teams was more of a kind of a, where you are watching other people do missions and setting up other people's missions, which was not my cup of tea. It wasn't my favorite thing. I didn't join the SEAL teams to plan others' missions and see them do them. I wanted to do them myself. Yep. But I had this deputy operations guy who had 30 years in the military and just a phenomenal human. And whenever things would get kind of chaotic in the office, he would always just say, "Hey, Luke, are we getting shot at right now?" And it was just like, "Hey, no, I've been through worse. I've been through actual hard things like these fires that pop up." There are times when it needs to be done like that second. But for the most part, can we sleep on this? Can we work this out through a conversation? There's always a way to settle down the chaos that's happening in our world of information and technology and getting on a computer screen and talking across the country to one another. You have a second to pause and think and come back a little bit, make the right decision. So to answer your actual question, I found residential assisted living. Gosh, it was 2022, and I had done a few years of real estate investing and kind of had the BRRRR method on lock, where you buy, you rehab, you rent, refinance, you repeat, add some value to to a property that you can force by doing some appreciation plays, like adding construction. So that made sense to me. And as interest rates increased and as prices increased and they weren't going down across the space, I didn't want to get into short-term rentals. I had talked to Nico about the horror stories of that. But I did find assisted living at the residential level, which was, I found a home in Phoenix. All I had to do was listen to a podcast. The guy was talking about it. And I was like, okay, I think I can take that. And this is a big thing that I learned is, hey, copy what works. If somebody's doing something right, you can take that template and you can apply some, get the basics first of like understanding the strategy, the skill set required, do that. Then you can apply some of your creativity to it. But it starts with copying what works. So this guy had done a couple homes in Phoenix where you buy the home. You don't have to do the operations because he didn't even live in the area. You vet an operator. You find somebody who wants to do the hands-on care and they have the business. They get licensed in your home. They run the business in there. You set up a commercial lease for 3 to 5 years, and you're getting 2 to 3 times the market rent that you would get from a long-term rental. So it's kind of this single-family home model where you can add some value to it with the BRRRR, but instead of getting single-family rental rents, you're getting 2 to 3 times market rents because the operators in those homes are making a ton of money on top. So obviously the number one thing is providing good care. So you have to find the right person that has the right, the care of the seniors first.
Luke, let me jump in here for a second, because what you're saying is super exciting, but I actually want to slow down a little bit. I want to get granular for the people listening to this for the first time, because you threw a couple nuggets in there that I don't want people to miss. So you're across the country to set the stage. You're in Virginia, obviously, just getting out of the military, dad of a bunch of young, beautiful children. And you said, I got to get into something. So you applied the BRRRR method, which we all love. But if I understand correctly, you did this on a relatively small home. Was it a single family with a couple bedrooms?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. You realize that if I did the lease, if I was the leaseor, and I found this operator with a license and I provided the housing, they could pay, 2-3 times market rent. So why don't we do this? Because I like to make it really granular before we build, right? We're trying to build the foundation. Let's just walk through a hypothetical example. Unless you remember the numbers, give me one of those first houses in Phoenix. I want to make this really small before we make it big for everybody. So what were they renting each room for in that example to you as the leaseor?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. Let's go with we'll use my first deal that I did, because
I love it. So you guys hear that? It's going to be his first one. So there's no fucking excuses. Don't whine. Don't cry. The guys in the military with young children doing this. So set the stage.
I bought this home, by the way, while I was on a 4-month training trip in North Carolina. So there was no excuses for me because I wasn't at home with the family. I trained by day and I worked by night. So
like the real estate Batman, just at nighttime, put it on. You know what I mean? I like it. There we go.
I would shine the bat signal of my light, my lamp in my room, in my hotel room. So I saw this deal. It was listed for $1 million, a single family home. Already, so it was a turnkey deal. So this home was not so much BRRRR as it was already a licensed assisted living home. But it was listed for $1 million, and I want to say I'm not going to make up the amount that it was making at the time, but I knew that I could make roughly $7,500 to $8,000 a month in lease if I got it as a residential assisted living. So I kind of backtracked that. I wanted to be as close to the 1% rule as possible. This was in early 2022. And I put some of my negotiation skills to work. I said, hey, I'm not going to take this at the $1 million mark. Doesn't hurt to ask. I'm across the country. I feel zero about not getting this if I don't. So I'm going to shoot my shot. So I did some numbers and retracted that down to, I said, okay, if I can get this for $850,000 or even right at the $900,000 mark, it's going to be a great deal for me. So I actually offered, I think, $845,000. They came back, ended up getting some seller's credits on some of the work. So I ended up compromising for $875,000. So already they had asked $1 million. I feel like I'm in at the right spot. I was in my numbers. It all starts with the numbers. So that's on the purchase price, what I got it for. One mistake I made, not knowing my network yet, was this realtor that was not the right realtor had told me, hey, you can get $10,000 a month from this lease from this person. And I had talked to the operator, and this being my first one, I kind of took them at their word. And this is a problem in the space. There can be a lot of people who talk, but on the back end, you got to find the proof. So lots of things I had to learn with this. That didn't end up being the operator for me. And I realized, hey, 7,500 to 8,000, 8,500 is really the sweet spot of what's going to work, because it also has to work for the operator and the business in the home. And
they have enough spread. Yeah.
They have enough spread, and the incentive to, the last thing I want is for an operator in there. It's not like just any tenant. There are plenty of operators out there, and there's a vast landscape of potential operators out there, but, you don't want to just get any Joe Schmo in there. You want somebody with a good track record and the right stuff. So ended up locking one in for an average of $7,800 per month over 5 years.
So again, walk me through that. The leasee is paying you $7,800 a month.
Yep.
And I'm guessing that's triple net. They're covering everything.
Double net. So because it's a single family home, we set it up to where I don't cover any of the utilities. That's on them. I do CapEx. So like HVAC goes out, I'm going to cover that. Technically in the lease, you can have them do that. But I'm covering the insurance. I'm covering the taxes. But that's just property insurance. They are covering the business liability insurance. They're doing the hands-on care. They're doing any cosmetic stuff in the house. And any utilities, that's on them. So I'm just worried about the tax bill once a year. I'm worried about the insurance costs, the mortgage. And then if there's a major thing like a roof replacement, that's going to be me.
Yeah. So I'm guessing quick back to napkin math. What year was this?
2022.
All right. So rates are probably in the 3s, 4s. So
at this one, I got a commercial loan, 5.5% over 25 years.
Okay. So you're probably cash flowing a couple grand a month on that trip, on that double net is my guess, right?
My debt service is $41.50 a month. And so I'm cash, and then the taxes and insurance in there. So yeah, I'm cash flowing 3,000 ish plus.
Yeah. So traditional, so amazing deal, amazing cash on cash, great return. And then this is even more intriguing because I thought where you're going to go with it is you were still going to have to be involved with filling the beds and and it's like, no, they're taking care of all that. Do you know, what are they, and I'm sure this is where it led to the bigger kind of aha moment. What are they renting out each bed for in that house?
Yeah, great question. The average cost of care for private pay in our country is about $6,000 a month right now for assisted living. Now, there's different levels of care, and you have to understand this. The highest, acute, dementia care and everything, that's going to be the most expensive, obviously, because it requires the most care. But you can have independent living and active adult. That's kind of the least high care level that you need. So the prices can range. But generally across the country, assisted living is about $6,000 a month. Now, market conditions do apply. Phoenix happens to be a pretty saturated market, so that can drive costs down per bed. This home in particular, for 10 beds, each room about $4,500 a month, and that can be that one actually has some Medicaid and government subsidy payments coming in, so that can make things a little bit more tricky. Ideally, you're going for private pay because that can have the highest price, and you can provide the best care there.
No, that's great, and it's like one of those things we're looking at. I'm about to even talk to Jeff, man. I've got like a 5-bed, 3-bath, single-story home in Paradise Valley that I'm like, I was going to sell. I'm like, man, maybe I keep this and throw in, at $4 to $5 grand a month a bed. I'm like, that's great. That works.
Shoot me that one. We could talk about it, man.
Yeah, that's a luxury home. So that one, we're going to have to be involved somehow. That monthly nut's about 12 grand a month on that house. So
yeah.
But at 5 beds, we'll see. But yeah, that's super intriguing. So that's great. That's a great overview for everybody. Now take it to the cool stuff you got going on today with, and how do I say, is it RAL or you told me at the start of the call and I forgot.
Yeah. The company we started, which we kind of like have is the ecosystem, the network, the education, everything you need to get started and be empowered to start your own homes. The RAL Room, RAL, Residential Assisted Living Room.
I love it. Yep. The RAL Room. Okay. So talk to us about the RAL Room, because what you guys are doing here is pretty cool.
Yeah, man. So we had this fork in the road where we had to decide, hey, are we just going to keep buying these things? So that first deal I did on my own. And then I, through a mastermind community called the RAL Room, met two prior Air Force guys. One's an Air Force doctor. One is was an Air Force weapons engineer.
Okay.
So he's our numbers guy. But we paired up together and this is the power of masterminds. Through Zoom meetings, we had never met in person. We started doing these deals, and then we ended up raising capital. We got up to 5 of these homes in the Phoenix area before we kind of said, hey, we can take this and start affecting the space. And because we saw things like, hey, the network, we've met so many people, and we could take our creativity here. We can actually empower others to do this and start a mastermind group that we were all passionate about to change the landscape of senior care, or we can keep buying these homes. We chose the former and started the RAL Room. What it basically is, and it's evolved over the 2 years that we've been open, it started as this, hey, let's bring everybody together. We can teach the things we've taught. We can teach raising money. We could teach creative finance. We could teach this lease to operator strategy, which is what we call the strategy I talked about with my first deal. Mm-hmm. But as we talked to people, we started learning, hey, it's actually very doable to own and operate these homes, which is where the biggest scale comes from. And we've met all these doctors, all these caregivers that want to get into this space. It's just broadening this kind of tree of like all these different people that we're meeting. We're meeting lenders, we're meeting tax specialists in this space, legal, and great operators across the country that we want to emulate. So it became this thing where we bring in these experts to talk to the community. We set up accountability groups that meet weekly to achieve their goals. We have actual operator specialists who have been operating, doing it, teaching members how to actually do the work the right way, learning the lessons. And basically what we're doing, we're empowering people to do this themselves, but we're shrinking the amount of time that they would need and giving them the courage to say, hey, there's people alongside me that have done this before. Obviously the money's going to work if I do it right, but I want to affect this space. And if they could take me from doing it on my own in 2 years to down to months and really figuring out my path and my strategy, that's what we want to do to help people do it.
That's awesome. That's exciting. And when you're thinking through such a grand vision like that, talk to me a little bit about the mindset coming over from the teams, because I think this is an important segue too. Are you staying up in that visionary seat? Are you day to day? Do you have a partner that's in that visionary seat? Walk me through kind of how you guys attack this, because the thing that I want everyone to kind of hang on, another one of the hidden gems here is it doesn't matter your background. You can have a very unique background. You can go from a teacher all the way to a Navy SEAL. It's all about understanding the aces in their places and who's doing what. So did you kind of come at this from the visionary, the big thinker? Were you the tactical guy in there and you had to go find that partner? Walk us through what that was kind of like, that aha moment.
That is such a good question, man. And that is like ever present in my mind. What me and my partner started as, Mike, were investors. And investor mindset is investor and entrepreneur on the right side of the quadrant of Robert Kiyosaki on his little quadrant. But they're different mindsets. And an investor mindset is different, in my opinion, than entrepreneur. Yes, you own things in both situations, but kind of the investor mindset is, hey, I'm going to put some due diligence up front, and then I'm going to let something ride and give me some dividends in perpetuity. The entrepreneur mindset is, I'm going to own this thing, and I'm going to do the things that make it grow. So that was a change that the three of us as founders, as 3 military guys who we're in this structure, and we came from different backgrounds in the military, which breed a different mindset. But we came together like, hey, we trust each other. We know we have the right mindset. But if you have 3 guys that are kind of investor mindset, and eventually if you want to take this thing pro, you got to shift into the entrepreneur mindset. So that's something that we have had to, because we started that way, we've had to kind of course correct. And all of us have these visionary qualities that make it tough when you have 3 founders to drive when you have such a lean team, quick decisions that need to be done to make it happen. So that's an internal struggle. But what emerged out of that kind of issue was we had a stellar member. His name is Aaron, and he and his wife are doing a deal in Houston that we actually invested in and capital raised for. They were building up their own basically memory care 2-spec home in the Houston area. And they're phenomenal people. Aaron emerged as this stellar member, took everything on board, took action, came in wanting to do lease to operator, but then shifted to like, no, I'm going to develop this thing and we're going to operate it, which is amazing. And we hired him and brought him in as our COO to the partner thing, because we recognized our limitations as kind of these visionaries, and we're still shaking it out on where exactly we're going to each sit into the C-suite level. But Aaron is our COO and drives everything, and that was the best decision we've made as a company in our young 2 years that we've had as RAL Room.
Yeah, there's so much there to unpack, and that's why I kind of wanted to go that way and kind of bring that up, because I want everyone. I think one thing that people don't necessarily pay a lot of time or a lot of mind to, and I'll get into where this is showing up in my life right now, is when you first get started, there's so much you don't know, right? The biggest thing I tell people all the time is just, take action, right? I got a saying, everyone's a shooter until it's time to squeeze, right? And it's because everything looks good on paper and everything looks perfect, but that's not the real world. That's not the business. And you said something else there that's so important. There is a difference between being in the I quadrant and the E quadrant, right? And the investor, I like to say that they have to own it without operating it, right? It's very different, right? And you have to understand the level of control you're giving up, but you don't necessarily get the scale, right? You don't get that big wealth creation. And I'll give you a little inside nugget. I want you guys to think about this, and I'll bring this back. I think it's prevalent to what you're doing, because I think you're onto something super unique. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about this lately, because we're kind of making this transition right now ourselves, and we've got both verticals going. Be very mindful of are you building for wealth creation or wealth preservation? And that ties to the type of capital you're raising as well. And I was having this talk with a friend of mine who's actually in the assisted living space. He's transitioning over. Shout out to my guy. Do you know Reed Hamilton? Have you come across Reed yet?
I've talked to Reed. Yep.
Really good buddy of me and Jeff's. And what he realized is in his world of self-storage, he was established. He would develop, sit back, and be an investor. Well, now he's in assisted living. And he finally understood. He goes, I get what you mean by velocity of money and everything else. And he's having to change who he raises capital from, because yes, the guys that he was doing his self-storage deals with, they were established. They were billionaires. They just wanted a place to park their cash, and they wanted no phone calls and no emergencies. Now he's trying to make wealth. I'm like, you got to go attract a whole different kind of animal, man. You're running a different race. But the other thing that I was going to talk about, so recently we have a bunch of different verticals now. We have the property management, the asset management, the construction company, the hospitality company, the nonprofit, and the media company. And in the hospitality company in particular, this is one thing I want you to do after this call, Luke, if you can for me. I want to have you back on to talk about it. I want you to get with your partners. And I set this company up through the lens of, I said, okay, 10 years from now, I want to go sell this entire company, the entire portfolio, for $150 million plus exit. Who am I selling to? Who are the advisors I need along the roadmap? And what does that look like when I set that up? That took time and experience to get to that point. And I mean all that to say that a lot of things that we lose sight of when we get going, and what you guys are hearing from Luke, is Luke was able to pivot quickly and efficiently, largely, I would say, because of who he is as a person, maybe his background. But I want you guys to think about that. You got to pivot. You got to be willing to pivot, but also understand that things are going to change. Who is buying you? What does your exit look like? What are you building? And that's what we mean when we say you're building a life with the business around it, not the business around the life. You get what I'm saying? And it's all these old adages you hear, but they're very important. And if you guys hear what Luke said, he goes, hey, we realized 2 years into this, we were all doing it. Well, okay, now we needed a COO, we needed a visionary, we needed people wearing the different hats so we could actually scale a business. So good on you. With that said, where can people learn more about you guys, what you guys have cooking? How do they get in touch? Because I think you're offering two very unique things. And correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, you're raising capital for those that are in the space, but you also have this education room to provide two services. One, wealth creation for great, entrepreneurs, but two, and also people that need to get into this space where we have a shortage of real quality care for our senior citizens, which is a huge issue in this country. I mean, there are so many slumlords in that space. It's disgusting in these big box stores. And who wants to put grandma in there, right? And newsflash for those who aren't thinking about it. I tell people this all the time. A lot of these guys that later in life, assisted living is $10K a month in some places. So with that, tell us a little bit about the education space where people can learn more and get involved with you guys.
Yeah. And Mike, I would love to have another conversation with you on it, because you bring up so many points that we could talk all day on. Probably.
I do coach for a living.
Yeah. I can tell
from guys all the time. It's like you guys are this rocket ship about to take off. And now it's so important because we've just been kicked in the nuts so many times. It's so critical. And one thing that lights me up is helping guys, and you guys a spot where you're building your foundation, but now you're about to scale. And it's a whole different animal. But you said something where, and I don't want to get too into it on the show, but you're really building 3 companies. And that took us a long time to learn in Commonwealth Collective. So just some of those pain points that go into that. And that's why I think the education thing you guys are doing is so important, because you're obviously going to share some of the lessons you've learned. But people don't realize, like, when you start real estate investing, like, oh, I'm just going to be a real estate investor. Okay, well, are you going to turn your own units and burn? Okay, well, now you have a construction component. Yep. Are you going to property manage? Okay, well, now you have a property management component. Well, you're going to own it, so you have an asset management component. Well, how are you getting deal flow? Now you have an acquisitions component. How are you executing with your lenders? Okay, now you need a financial department. I mean, people don't realize all those verticals within it. So talk a little bit about the education space. Who is your ideal student? Who isn't your ideal student? Who you guys are a fit for?
Yeah. And by the way, if you don't do your own property management, you're doing it anyway because you have a third party doing it, and then you got to manage them. So you might as well,
asset management piece for sure.
If you do it with excellence, then you might as well figure out how to do it, because nothing is too complicated to figure out on your own. That's one of my mantras. You may be whatever you resolve to be. That was I went to Virginia Military Institute. That was over the barracks entry into the old barracks where every cadet stays there. And you can figure it out. It's just a matter of, are you willing to focus on it? To answer your question on the education, where you can find out more, go to theralroom.com. So TheRalRoom.com. That's where you can find out more. We have a free 10-step guide on how to start build your own assisted living home at the residential level. And then separately, we have a podcast called the RAL Room Podcast. Free information, great information out there. Internal to our team, we have a private podcast feed as well. But that's great, 2 great ways that are free to get on there and check out, learn some stuff.
You guys heard that. Free. You got no excuses. And what about Luke? Where do you want people to hit you up and learn more about you? Yeah,
you can reach out to me directly. You can reach out to our team at team@theralroom.com with our email. You can reach out to me through if you listen to Mike at luke@theralroom.com with my email. Learn about the space. It's just, in my opinion, as you said, Mike, the pivot was a no-brainer for us with the demographic wave that's happening. It's a thing in real estate where the money works. There's also a huge purpose in it, and and obviously the demographic, the need, the supply and demand is there. Mm-hmm. So it's this perfect 3-way kind of everything combining at the same time, where you can't always look at real estate in the aspect of like, hey, is this really purposeful? Yes, I'm providing housing, but we're adding to the equation here. Every single one of us is going to be faced with assisted living or having care, whether for a loved one, a family member. If we make it that long, it's going to be us. So everybody's going to be touched by this at some point. And we're not getting any younger in our country, but the way we live our last years and our loved ones do, that matters. So
100%. Luke, I can't thank you enough for being here. He's Luke Frizzell. I'm Michael Ketchen. And as always, bet on yourself.